December 1991. Austin, Texas. 4 teenage girls close up a yogurt shop for the night. By morning, firefighters find their bodies in the ashes. 34 years later, we finally know who killed them. This is Case Files Explained. Today, the yogurt shop murders. A case defined by what went wrong, the false confessions, the ruined lives, and what finally went right. 4 innocent men spent decades under suspicion. One real killer escaped justice by dying, and in 2025, forensic science finally caught up. The break came from 2 unlikely places. A spent bullet casing recovered from a drain in 1991. And skin cells scraped from beneath a 13-year-old victim's fingernail. For 34 years, that evidence sat in storage, waiting for technology to evolve, waiting for a national database to make a connection no human investigator could. The answer, when it came, pointed to a man already dead, a serial killer who had taken his own life in 1999 with the same model gun used to kill those 4 girls. December 6, 1991. The I Can't Believe It's Yogurt shop on West Anderson Lane. Jennifer Harbison, 17, was working the closing shift with her friend Eliza Thomas, also 17. Jennifer's younger sister Sarah, 15, had stopped by. So had Amy Ayers, just 13 years old, waiting for a ride. 4 girls. One ordinary Friday night. The shop closed at 11. Sometime after, the attack began. The details are difficult to recount. The girls were bound with their own clothing. They were sexually assaulted, then shot in the head. A fire was set to destroy evidence, but the flames also triggered the alarm. At 11:47 p.m., firefighters arrived. They thought they were responding to a simple commercial fire. What they found inside changed everything. 4 bodies. The youngest was 13. The fire had been deliberately set but failed to consume the scene entirely. Austin had never seen anything like it. The case became the largest investigation in the city's history. More than 50 investigators worked the scene. The community demanded answers. Parents kept their children home. The pressure on investigators was immense, and that pressure would lead to devastating mistakes. Here's what investigators missed. Less than 48 hours after the murders, a man named Robert Eugene Brashers was stopped at a Border Patrol checkpoint between Texas and New Mexico. He was driving a stolen car. He had a .380 caliber pistol in his possession, the same make and model used to shoot Amy Ayers in the head. Brashers was arrested for auto theft, fingerprinted, photographed, then released. No one connected him to the Austin murders. Brashers drove away. The investigation continued. Years passed, and investigators, desperate for answers, began focusing on a group of local teenagers who knew each other. In 1999, police arrested 4 men: Michael Scott, Robert Springsteen, Maurice Pierce, and Forrest Welborn. They ranged from teens to young adults at the time of the murders. Scott and Springsteen gave confessions, but those confessions were extracted during lengthy interrogations, and they were riddled with factual errors that didn't match the crime scene. This is what false confessions look like. Young suspects interrogated for hours, leading questions. Promises of leniency. By the end, they'll say anything to make it stop. Springsteen was convicted of capital murder in 2001. Scott was convicted in 2002. Both faced the death penalty. The community believed justice had been served, but there was a problem. DNA evidence recovered from the scene, including genetic material found under Amy Ayers' fingernails, did not match any of the 4 accused men. The prosecution argued there must have been a 5th, unknown assailant. The confessions, they said, proved the accused were involved. The DNA just meant someone else was also there. In 2006 and 2009, appeals courts overturned both convictions on constitutional grounds. The confessions, the courts found, had been improperly obtained. Scott and Springsteen were released. Pierce and Welborn had charges dropped earlier, but their ordeal wasn't over. Being released isn't the same as being declared innocent. For years, these 4 men lived under a cloud. Employers wouldn't hire them. Neighbors whispered. The case remained officially unsolved, and they remained officially suspects. Meanwhile, the real killer was already dead. Robert Eugene Brashers committed suicide in Missouri in 1999, the same year police arrested the 4 innocent men. He shot himself with a .380 pistol. Brashers was 39 years old. He had been linked to violent crimes across multiple states. But without DNA databases connecting the dots, investigators in Austin had no way to know. After his death, Brashers would eventually be linked to 8 murders and multiple attacks across the country through post-mortem DNA matching. The technology that would finally solve the case didn't exist in 1991. It barely existed in 1999. But by 2025, forensic science had evolved dramatically. In July 2025, investigators resubmitted the .380 cartridge casing found in a drain at the yogurt shop to NIBIN, the National Integrated Ballistics Information Network. NIBIN returned a match. The casing from Austin was ballistically linked to an unsolved 1998 murder in Kentucky, a case that had already been connected to Robert Eugene Brashers. 1 month later, in August 2025, a South Carolina forensic laboratory completed advanced DNA testing on material scraped from Amy Ayers' fingernails in 1991. The results were conclusive. DNA from beneath Amy's fingernail produced a 2.5 million to 1 likelihood ratio pointing to Robert Eugene Brashers. The genetic material likely came from a struggle. Amy, 13 years old, fought back. She scratched her killer. And 34 years later, that act of resistance identified him. On September 29, 2025, Austin Police Chief Lisa Davis held a press conference. After 34 years, investigators had identified the killer, Robert Eugene Brashers. Chief Davis acknowledged what the department had gotten wrong. 4 innocent men had been accused. The true killer had been stopped and released within 48 hours of the crime. The announcement brought a measure of closure and a measure of outrage. The case had been solved, but it had also been botched. Lives had been destroyed by prosecutorial tunnel vision. In December 2025, a Texas judge formally declared Michael Scott, Robert Springsteen, Maurice Pierce, and Forrest Welborn innocent, not acquitted, innocent. The judge looked at each man directly. "You are innocent," he said. After 26 years of suspicion, arrest, prosecution, and stigma, 3 words changed everything. Michael Scott was 17 when he was first interrogated. He's now in his 50s. He lost his 20s, his 30s, and much of his 40s to a crime he didn't commit. Robert Springsteen spent years on death row for murders he had nothing to do with. He sat in a cell knowing he was innocent while the real killer was already dead. The victims' families received the news with mixed emotions: relief that the killer had been identified, frustration that he would never face trial, anger that the wrong men were pursued for so long. Amy Ayers, Jennifer Harbison, Sarah Harbison, and Eliza Thomas deserved justice in 1991. Their families deserved answers. What they got instead was a decades-long investigation that harmed innocent people. Brashers cannot be prosecuted. He's been dead for over 25 years. The case is solved but not closed, not in the sense that a courtroom could provide. But the identification matters. It removes suspicion from the innocent. It provides a name for the evil. And it demonstrates what forensic science can accomplish even decades after a crime. What can we learn from this? First, false confessions happen more often than we want to believe. Young suspects, long interrogations, and psychological pressure produce unreliable statements. Recording interrogations from start to finish protects everyone: suspects, investigators, and the integrity of cases. Many jurisdictions still don't require it. They should. If you care about criminal justice reform, support organizations advocating for interrogation recording requirements and regular review of cold case evidence using new forensic technology. The NIBIN database, the ballistics matching system that linked the Austin casing to the Kentucky murder, only works if jurisdictions submit evidence. Not all of them do consistently. Advocate for your local law enforcement to participate fully in national evidence databases. Cross-referencing is how cold cases get solved. The technology exists. It just needs to be used. And remember, wrongful convictions don't just destroy the lives of the accused, they fail the victims too. The wrong person in prison means the right person stays free. Robert Eugene Brashers is now linked to at least 8 murders across multiple states. Each of those cases could have been connected sooner if the technology and coordination existed. He killed in South Carolina, he killed in Kentucky, he killed in Texas, and because each jurisdiction worked in isolation, the pattern went unrecognized for years. The yogurt shop case shows both the failure and the promise of American forensic investigation. It took too long. Innocent people suffered. But eventually science delivered what intuition couldn't. If stories like this matter to you, consider subscribing. We cover cases where the evidence speaks, sometimes quickly, sometimes after decades, but always with respect for the truth. Jennifer Harbison was 17. Her sister Sarah was 15. Eliza Thomas was 17. Amy Ayers was 13. They were daughters, sisters, friends. They deserved to be remembered beyond how they died. Jennifer wanted to be a veterinarian. Sarah loved gymnastics. Eliza played the flute in the school band. Amy was the youngest, the little sister who came along for frozen yogurt on a Friday night. They were killed by a stranger passing through a man with a history of violence who happened to be in Austin that December. Random, senseless, devastating. 34 years, 4 innocent men accused, 1 killer identified too late to face justice. The yogurt shop case is solved. But the cost of that solution is measured in ruined lives. For Amy, Jennifer, Sarah, and Eliza, they finally have a name attached to what happened. For Michael, Robert, Maurice, and Forrest, they finally have something more valuable than freedom: innocence. The evidence doesn't lie, but it takes time and technology and a willingness to admit when you've been wrong. That's what happened in Austin. 34 years too late, but finally. This has been Case Files Explained, the yogurt shop murders solved at last. Remember the victims, honor the exonerated, learn from the mistakes. Until next time.